Hello and welcome. We live in a world that is just obsessed with getting rich quick. But today, we're going to slow things way, way down. We're going to explore this really powerful metaphor for building real, lasting financial stability in our explainer, the Garden of Quiet Riches.
Okay, so let's get right into it. Our guide for this journey is a book from our library that totally reframes how we think about creating wealth. It's not about some frantic race to the finish line. Nope. It's about the patient, deliberate act of tending a garden. It is a completely different way of looking at your financial future, for sure.
And this quote right here, this is the core idea. It's about tuning out all that noise about instant results and overnight success. The whole philosophy is that real, meaningful wealth doesn't shout from the rooftops. It just grows, quietly and consistently, because you've been patiently taking care of it. So let's just start with this one question. Seriously, what if you stopped sprinting and just started planting? What if you decided to trade all that impatience for real intention? This one little shift in how you see things, well, it's the foundation for everything we're about to talk about. Every great garden, and I mean every single one, doesn't start with a seed. It starts with the soil. And in the world of slow wealth, your soil is your mindset. It is the absolute foundation that everything else is going to be built on. Right, so before you can even think about planting something, you have to clear the ground. And in our financial lives, that means we have to identify and rip out all those mental weeds that are choking our potential for growth before we even get a chance to start. Now, what's so interesting here is just how relatable these weeds are. I mean, that buy now or never pressure from ads, right? The constant feeling that you have to keep up with what everyone else is doing. That myth that you have to get rich fast or it's not worth it. And maybe the biggest weed of all, that nagging fear that starting small just isn't enough. Just being able to see these in your own life is the first step to pulling them out. Okay, so this is a little gut check moment. Time to test your own soil. When you think about your money, what's the actual feeling? Is it a practical tool, something you can use to build the life you want? Or does it feel like a constant test of your worth, a source of stress and anxiety? Your answer to that really tells you a lot about the health of your financial soil. So, once the ground is prepared, it's time to actually plant. And this next part is all about those small, repeatable actions, the seeds that, over time, are going to grow into something really substantial. Now let's look at how this really works. These seeds, they don't seem like much on their own, do they? Saving just a little bit, planning one purchase instead of just buying it on impulse, or even just reframing a no to a not now. But here's the thing. These aren't just one-off actions. They are habits in seed form. And each one, planted over and over again, starts to completely remake your financial landscape. But of course, once you've planted your seeds, you've got to protect them. Early growth is always the most vulnerable. And there are some really common pests out there that can destroy your progress before it even has a chance to take root. Man, these are the silent killers of slow wealth. Comparison. It just makes you feel bad about your own journey. Impatience makes you want to pull up the seedlings just to see if they're growing. Lifestyle creep, that just quietly eats up any extra money you make. And FOMO, the fear of missing out, that's the one that lures you away from your own garden to go chase some get-rich-quick scheme. And this chart right here is exactly why patience is everything. This is the magic of compounding. In year 1, your efforts look tiny. You can barely see them. By year 10, okay, you're seeing some real progress. But look at year 30. The growth is absolutely explosive. So the key takeaway is that time doesn't just add to your efforts, it multiplies them. And that is the reward for protecting those little seedlings. No garden has perfect weather all the time, and neither does any financial journey. Understanding that there are cycles or seasons is absolutely the key to building resilience and, staying the course when things get tough. Just be able to recognize what season you're in can change everything. Spring is that exciting start with all the small gains. Summer is when your habits are really paying off, and that compounding starts to kick in. Autumn is when you start to see the tangible rewards. But winter is inevitable. A market downturn, a surprise expense, it's going to happen. But knowing that winter will come allows you to prepare for it, not to be terrified of it. So when that financial storm hits, how do you react? The panic response is to do something impulsive, make rash decisions, maybe even abandon the plan entirely. But the gardener's response? It's calm. You take a breath, You assess the situation, you adjust your plan a little bit, and most importantly, you see the setback not as a failure, but as a lesson. A lesson that's going to make your garden even stronger in the long run. Okay, so we've prepared the soil, we've planted our seeds, and we've learned how to navigate the seasons. Now, finally, we get to the harvest, the quiet, lasting abundance that comes from this incredibly patient approach. So let's just recap the whole philosophy here. It all starts with your mindset. Then, it's about those small, consistent actions that eventually compound into something amazing. You nurture those actions with routine, and you protect them from all those pests. You learn to embrace the natural ups and downs, and finally, you become a steward of your wealth, sustaining it for the long, long term. And really, that brings us to the end. The theory is actually pretty simple, but all the power is in putting it into practice. The goal isn't to do everything all at once. The goal is just to start. So the only question left is, what's the first, small seed that you are going to plant in your own garden of quiet riches, starting today?